This morning on Born Today, Then and Now, how parents handled the baby basics years ago and how things have changed so much through the generations. Here's a family who knows all about that. Katie Peters is a mom to 2-year-old Caden and 7-month-old Avery. They're playing right now in the orange room with Dad, Drew Peters. And they are expecting, by the way, a third baby in January. Talk about back-to-back.
Well, Diane Fabian is Katie's mom, who raised 3 kids herself. Bunny Fabian is Katie's paternal grandmom, who's raised 6 kids, the first born in 1948. Also with us, pediatrician Ari Brown, the co-author of Baby 411. Good to see everybody.
Nice to
So
see you.
first of all, Dr. Brown, you collect baby books. You got one here from the 40s. Well, for example, breastfeeding. What does it talk about breastfeeding?
Well, actually, this one is from the turn of the century, 1900,
wow.
and actually supports breastfeeding. From 1940 to 1980, though, with the rise of infant formula, that's when less than 25% of babies were actually breastfed. Today, over 75% of babies are breastfed, and that's because we know their benefits for mom and baby.
Yeah, and Katie, you bottle-fed your first child, Caden, but you breastfed Avery.
Yes.
And how did you feel about the breastfeeding? Did it take naturally for you?
After Caden was born, I was terrified of breastfeeding, so I was completely adamant against it. But I did feel like a hypocrite when I chose to breastfeed Avery, and I did, in fact, love it, so I intend on breastfeeding the next baby as well.
And Diane, you bottle-fed your kids, but when you saw Katie breastfeeding, that made a pretty big impression on you, didn't it?
It did. I think what I felt was, when I look back, I wished I had tried to breastfeed, but at that time it was bottle feeding.
Sure.
Bunny, what did you do when it came to feeding all 6 of your kids?
I breastfed the first one for a very short time.
Yeah.
And he was really, really too hungry. I had to feed him formula.
Yeah.
Okay, but back then it wasn't that there wasn't a stigma against bottle feeding or breastfeeding, was there?
I went to a doctor that told me I had to breastfeed.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting. Back then, they told you had to do it. Things have really changed, though, Dr. Brown, when it comes to feeding. What about the switch to solid foods?
Right,
What do we see on
and I
that
have to
front?
say, I've now written 6 editions of my baby book. Solid foods, that's the #1 that I've had to revise every time. And so we used to actually recommend, back in the day, she started probably solids at 9 months of life. She probably started less than 9 weeks of life, and that's because every parent thinks that starting solids is going to make their kids sleep through the night.
I got that advice from my
not
mom.
true.
They put a
It's
little
not true.
rice cereal in
Right.
the bottle. Katie, did you
so
get
much.
that too?
Yeah.
I got to say, though, it works, but I don't know. I don't know if it was just they were
I think
the
you
right
were
time.
lucky. I think you were
Yeah.
lucky. But truthfully, today we recommend that babies start between 4 and 6 months of life. And also, we actually recommend starting high allergy foods like eggs and dairy and peanut products before a year of age. Because
Really?
what we've learned is that starting high allergy foods earlier actually will prevent food allergies. So we've had it wrong the whole time.
I was going to, Bunny and Diane, did you guys, when your kids were growing up, did you know anybody who had a peanut allergy?
I didn't know.
Yeah,
Neither did I.
But Katie, you probably did.
A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is that? What's that about?
Right, and so there's a hygiene hypothesis where people think that because kids are not seeing a lot of things in the environment anymore, that our immune system somehow takes it out on us, and so then we start developing food allergies. So that's one of the things, is early exposure to these high allergy foods reduces that risk of your immune system turning on you.
Now, talking sleep safety really quickly, because always important to bring this up, is also a generational divide here that you're seeing. It was back then, it was had the baby sleep on their tummy, but now, of course, it's sleep on their back.
Right. Every grandmother will tell you babies sleep better on their tummies, right?
Absolutely.
And it's true, but it's not safe because it increases the risk of SIDS. The other things that also increase risk of SIDS are blankets and pillows and bumper pads, all those things we used to have in cribs. Now we recommend the naked crib, and babies should sleep on their backs.
And a quick show of hands, how many let him cry it out? To the Ferbrizing. You cry it out?
I did too. Yeah.
Ladies, thank you so much for being here.